Hello, it's Tom Halliwell here, and today I want to show you the 5 fundamentals of guitar. It's inspired by an article I wrote yesterday, and I got so many comments from it, and all week I've been getting questions from people about different techniques like palm muting, from string bending to legato to hammer-ons and pull-offs. But when I say, okay, what have you done before? Oh, bar chords as well, especially bar chords. Too many people are moving on to bar chords far too quick. And when I analyse what have they done before, usually it's just like a couple of one-string riffs and then maybe a couple of chords which I can't change smoothly and I can't play properly. And then they're trying to move on to these advanced things. And so I want to lay down some structure for you to follow, especially in the first 2 to 3 months of playing guitar. And that is following the 5 fundamentals of guitar, which is picking, chords, arpeggio scales, and strumming. Now, today in this lesson, I'm going to show you 3. The reason why I don't want to overload you with so much information, on my 8-week program, what I do is I take students from literally nothing to playing their favourite songs in 8 weeks, and I give them these 3 things that I'm going to show you on their first week. Let's dive straight into it. Let's get into the action stuff. So the first technique I want to cover with you, or the first fundamental I want to cover with you, is picking. So this technique here, just because without a great foundation on your picking, so many things are going to struggle. I see people trying to play solos and they can't even pick correctly. You know, people trying to do like solos and their picking's like things like that. Whereas what they need to learn is that proper technique. So here's what we're going to do. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put a sheet up on the videos to show you. What we're going to do is we're going to take string 6 and string 5, also known as E and A. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go string 6 and we're just going to pick down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay? You're going to repeat that for 1 minute. Then, second minute, you're going to go down string 6, up on string 5, down string 6, up on string 5. Okay? Next one, you're going to go up on string 6, down on string 5, up on 6, down on string 5. Then you're going to go down on string 6, down on string 5, down on string 6, down on string 5. Then you're going to go up on string 5, up on string 6, up on string 5, up on string 6. Now, those 5 combinations, isolate them first. Make sure you get each one very perfect. Obviously we can't achieve perfection, but we can get it near enough perfect. When I say perfect, it means, you know, doing it without thinking. So I don't want you to be stumbling. I need you to get it down so you're like, yeah. The next step really is then to play that to a metronome, dead on the beat, which is hard for beginners especially. The technique for picking, so how we hold it, is we do our little fist and we put the pick here and then put the thumb on top, bring that round, so it should be roughly 90 degrees to the strings. That will get us in a good picking position. Okay, so that's the first one. First fundamental is picking. Second one is chords. Now with chords, too many people are struggling. They're learning 3-finger chords the first time they touch a guitar. They're learning that, the very first time they touch guitar. And some players can do it and some players can't. And even the players that can do it, what generally happens is they can do it and then they reach a plateau later on. So when they start doing their bar chords, they haven't developed their real strength in their fingers. So what we need to learn is the correct technique for 1 finger before we move on to 2 fingers and 3 fingers. So what I like to do is one finger chords. And all that requires is we get our first finger and we make sure we use the tips of our fingers and we place them close to the frets, and what we're going to do is push down strongly. Some students won't need to push as strongly, but I teach a lot of kids, so that's where I've got that habit of telling you push down strongly, because kids generally don't push down hard enough. And then what you want is you want that thumb probably in the middle of the neck, and you want to push the thumb into the neck and push the finger into the neck, so you create this good tension. And then of course we're just going to play 3 strings like that, yeah? Another tip is make sure this palm is not raised, touching the neck. A lot of students do that at first, okay, where they've got that palm touching the bottom of this. We want to actually drop that. So imagine, I think Justin Guitar was the first to say this, and imagine there's an electric wire going across. I agree with that. So imagine there's an electric wire, you can't touch it. Yeah, you want that technique, okay? You want to master your 1 finger chords before you move on to your 2 finger chords, yeah? So these are your 2 finger chords. And then you can finally play your 3 finger chords. Okay, I just wanted to show you that. So 1 finger chord, what we're going to do is we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the first finger on 2nd string, 1st fret. Okay? And then we're going to change to what we call a G7 chord. And that's the 1st finger on string number 1, fret number 1. With this hand only strumming 3 strings. Then you want your 3rd finger on fret number 3, string 1. But the same technique, tips of fingers close to frets, thumb behind the neck, supporting the fingers, but make sure your thumb's not too low, make sure it's not too high, make sure it's just like that in the middle of the neck, and make sure your palm's not touching the neck. Okay? Something I will mention though is, as a beginner, when you're playing chords, your thumb should be in the middle of the neck, but then when you develop that strength, you can actually start to put your thumb up. But for a complete beginner, telling them to put their thumb up is just silly, because they need to develop that strength before they can do that. Okay, so those are the 3 chords. The next thing I'm going to teach you is how to do some arpeggios. This is what a lot of self-taught players are missing from their playing. When I've taught loads of self-taught players, they come to me and it's really frustrating for them because they can play some of these 3 finger chords and they can kind of strum. Usually their strumming's a bit sloppy, but they can kind of strum. And so they can kind of, you know, play some chords and do some strumming. But when it comes down to picking, isolating notes, they seem to struggle a lot with that. And then when it comes to playing arpeggios, they struggle a lot because they don't have the solid foundations in place. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a basic 3-string arpeggio. So let's just take that C major chord. Okay? What we're going to do is you're going to go down on string 3, down on string 2, up on string 1, up on string 2. For some people that'll be easy, but for some people it might be a bit tricky. So down, down, up, up. The rule really with arpeggios, although again, this is just guidelines because there's no rules to playing guitar. There's just better ways of doing it than others, right? But the one I follow is basically when you're coming down the guitar, you pick down, and then when you're coming up the guitar, you pick up, because it creates this consistency. And so then when you start to get to more complicated arpeggios, let's take the one I was just playing earlier, look what my picking hand is doing. It's going down, down, up, down, up, down, up. So it's doing this, down, down, yeah. And so it creates that consistency and that flow from one note into the other, rather than if you're alternate picking or picking down twice and then picking up once and kind of confusing it, you get this inconsistent sound and this and for me it just looks wrong when people are picking like that, but it creates a lot of confusion in their brains, and they can never play it basically consistent. They can never play it the same. If there's to repeat it 10 times, they can never play it the same, you know, they always make mistakes, and it's because they haven't got that consistency with their arpeggios. So those are the 3 things I want you to work on. So if you're a complete beginner, start off with that picking and do 10 minutes of that. Do 10 minutes of these 1-finger chords, and then do 10 minutes of the arpeggios. That's what I would advise to any complete beginner. If you have been playing guitar for a little bit, but you want to go back over the fundamentals, I would do the picking exercises. Really make sure you're not doing this, where you're basically hitting the string, and a lot of beginners do this, where they pick it, and then what they do is they touch the string on the pick, and then pick, then touch string on the pick. So what they create is this, instead of, okay? So I want to make sure that, yeah, if you've been playing guitar for a bit, go back over those picking exercises and make sure you're moving your wrist and not your fingers, although there have been some players that can move their fingers, but I advise moving the wrist. Go back over those picking exercises, but to a metronome. That's if you're not a complete beginner. Okay, with the chords, again, some people it might be easy, some people it might be hard, but the trick is what we're doing is building those foundations from a strong ground. Instead of just starting up here, we're going back down. And then with the arpeggios, which a lot of you will be new to, yeah, get that down, and then the next step really is to take it to 2-finger chords and use arpeggios that skip strings. So you go down, down, up, up, down, down, up, up, and you're using different strings and skipping strings, but still using the same technique, where if you're going down the guitar, you're picking down, if you're going up the guitar, you're picking up. Anyway, I wander off so many times because my brain's all over the place. But yeah, so I hope that helped you all, and let me know in the comments if it did help you, and I will post some more videos very, very soon for you guys.